After years of silence, Prince William and Prince Harry finally reunited, not before cameras or crowds, but within the quiet walls of a private royal chapel on October 1st, 2025. The world held its breath. No handshake, no hug, only raw tension, until William finally spoke. But it wasn't about their feud or the years of royal drama. It was about Diana. His tribute to their mother stunned the room, transforming the atmosphere completely. Harry's reply was quiet, emotional, and unscripted. And in that moment, everything shifted. This wasn't merely a reunion, it was a reckoning. And it all began with her name. The moment of reunion, the announcement came quietly. Through a leaked press advisory marked Private Royal Schedule, October 1st, 2025, 11 a.m. for the first time in nearly 4 years. Prince William and Prince Harry would meet face-to-face, the location, a private family chapel on the Sandringham estate. No cameras, minimal staff. Only those with personal ties to the late Princess Diana were permitted inside. The tension was unlike anything the monarchy had faced in decades. This wasn't about official duties, ribbon cuttings, or royal tours. This was personal to brothers, broken by time and scandal, standing under one roof again. Aides were on edge. Press officers were ordered to remain silent. Even palace insiders were given strict instructions. No recordings, no leaks. But it was already too late. The world knew at 11:08 a.m. the chapel doors opened. No applause, no fanfare, just footsteps and silence. William entered first, flanked by a single senior aide. Harry followed moments later, offering a brief nod. Their eyes met for only a second. No embrace, no smile, but neither looked away, and for a monarchy defined by cold formality, that alone was progress. The public, glued to their screens, waited for even the smallest sign of humanity. For months, rumors had swirled that a reunion was impossible. Some claimed Harry would refuse. Others insisted William had banned him outright. But now, here they were. Not for the crown, not for tradition, but for her, the woman whose absence had shaped them both, though cameras were banned. One quote leaked only hours later, because when Prince William stepped forward to speak, no one expected his words. Not about the feud, not about duty, but about Diana, the mother they lost, the bond they shared, and the one person powerful enough to bring them back together. Opening lines, Prince William began slowly, deliberately, his voice steady, but laced with emotion. He didn't begin with apologies or accusations, but with memory. She once told us, he said that love is the only legacy worth leaving. I forgot that for a while. I forgot her words. It was a moment no one predicted. Instead of blaming Harry or defending the palace, William turned to the one name both brothers still held sacred, Diana. He spoke not as a prince, but as a son, calling their mother the light between us. William recalled a childhood moment from 1993 when Diana took them to a homeless shelter in Brixton. She reminded them, "These are the people we serve, not the cameras." He quoted her again. Words she once whispered before a royal appearance. "You are more than the name on your badge." The tone in the room shifted. What began as a tense reunion now felt like something deeper. A resurrection of the mother, whose presence had never truly left. "We've both made choices," he said softly, "but none that she would have wanted to divide us." He didn't mention Meghan. He didn't reference interviews. He stayed anchored in one idea, Diana's legacy. By the time he finished, there was no applause, just silence. But it wasn't cold. It was reverent. Because the moment wasn't about Charles or Camilla or the crown. It was about a woman born in 1961, lost in 1997, and still powerful enough in 2025 to move the hearts of kings and princes alike. William stepped back, and all eyes turned to Harry. For years, Harry had spoken about Diana in interviews, in documentaries, never in front of William, not from the heart of the family. Now, with the room silent and the floor open, it was his turn to respond, not as the rebel prince, but as her son, William's confession. Before Harry could speak, William stepped forward again. This time not with a tribute, but with something heavier, a confession. He lowered his gaze, voice quiet. For years, he said, I carried the image of Mum like a shield. The public saw her as perfection. I felt I had to protect that, even if it meant protecting the wrong people. It was the first time William had admitted that his silence, his own silence, might have caused harm. He revealed that behind closed doors, he had battled guilt in 2019. During the height of Harry's media fallout, William confessed he'd wanted to reach out, but didn't. "I feared breaking the crown," he said. "I feared breaking Dad," he described, watching old interviews of Diana, particularly one from 1996, when she said, "Being silent doesn't mean I'm weak. It means I'm surviving." Those words, he admitted, haunted him. Then came a memory that froze the room. William turned to Harry and said quietly, "You never knew this, but the night before Mum's funeral, I heard her voice. I was staring at her photo in the corridor, and I remember thinking she wouldn't want us this way." At war, Harry's face didn't move, but his eyes filled with tears. He had never heard this before, not from William. William ended with a line that would dominate headlines for days. "I failed to speak for her, but I won't fail again." It was raw, honest, rare. Not just for a royal, but for a future king. And as he returned to his seat, for the first time in years, he and Harry met eyes and held the gaze. Harry had remained silent, but his stillness wasn't cold. It was careful, because for the first time since leaving royal life, he wasn't speaking to the press or the public. He was speaking to his brother, and to the woman they both still loved. Harry's reaction: Prince Harry sat quietly for several seconds after William's confession. His face was calm but visibly moved, carrying the weight of what had just been said. Finally, he rose. His voice was steady, softer than usual. "Thank you," he said, glancing at his brother. "That took something. It wasn't a royal speech. It wasn't rehearsed. It was real." And in that moment, the world saw not the Duke of Sussex, but Diana's son. He didn't respond to William's vulnerability with blame. Instead, he acknowledged the pain they both carried. "I left," Harry admitted, because I felt unheard, misunderstood, and yes, sometimes unloved by the institution." He paused. "But not by you." The room fell silent. "Even when we didn't speak," Harry continued, "I never stopped believing we both wanted to honor her." It was the first time in public or private that Harry admitted he didn't hold William solely responsible. Then he shared something deeply personal, something he said he hadn't even told Megan Dot during a therapy session in 2021. He recalled being asked what memory of Diana felt most alive. "It wasn't the big public moments," he said softly. "It was when she held my hand during a thunderstorm at Balmoral when I was 6. She told me, 'Don't be afraid of the noise. It's just sound.'" He paused again. "And I think that's what we forgot, that all this, the press, the drama, it's just noise." He looked toward William. "Thank you for bringing her into the room today," Harry said. "She deserved that, and so did we." The atmosphere shifted again. The tension lingered, but it was softer now. The distance between them wasn't gone, but it felt smaller, less impossible. For the first time in years, the idea of healing no longer felt like fantasy. But this wasn't just about two brothers finding their voices again. It was about the woman whose absence had shaped them, whose presence still echoed in every decision they made. Because Diana's shadow didn't darken the room, it lit the way forward. Diana's shadow. William stood once more. He spoke about her. "Mum taught us to serve with empathy, not ego," he said. "To sit beside people, not above them." He referenced her most famous visits, the AIDS clinics of 1987, the landmine fields in Angola in 1997, moments that taught them what true royalty looked like. "She didn't wear the crown," William said, "but she wore the people's trust." Then he turned to Harry. "We both inherited her mission," he said quietly. "We just chose different roads to carry it out." That line silenced the entire room. There was no accusation, no correction, just recognition. Recognition that their paths, though different, came from the same origin. William admitted that many of his choices, especially after 2020, had been driven by fear, fear of backlash, fear of change, fear of losing control. "But Diana wasn't afraid," he said, his voice breaking slightly, "and I don't want to be anymore." Harry nodded silently. It was the first time both brothers acknowledged that their feud wasn't about fame or press. It was about grief. Grief expressed in two different ways, one through duty, the other through distance. Diana had become not just a symbol of what they'd lost, but of what they still shared, a guidepost neither had ever truly let go. William closed with a line that would echo far beyond the chapel walls. "She deserves to be more than a memory. She should be our bridge, not our battlefield." In that moment, the message was clear. This wasn't about choosing sides. It was about reclaiming something they had both lost, not just a mother, but a mission, one only they could now continue. And as word of the reunion spread beyond those chapel doors, the public response was immediate and overwhelming. Public and media reaction by 2:35 p.m. The first news alert hit global feeds. William and Harry reunite in private tribute to Princess Diana. Within 30 minutes, the BBC cut into regular programming. CNN, Sky News, and ITV all launched breaking coverage. Soon after, Twitter, now X, erupted with trending hashtags. Hashtag Diana Bridge, hashtag Royal Reunion, hashtag Windsor Brothers. Screens flooded with quotes. Diana's words, William's confessions, Harry's memories, public sentiment shifted in real time. Social media exploded with emotion. One post, a sign. The image of young William and Harry walking behind Diana's casket in 1997, beside their reunion in 2025, gained over 4.2 million likes in just 6 hours. Comments poured in. Diana's boys, back together. Others were more cautious. Let's see if it lasts. But whether people believed it or not, the world was watching again with hope. Royal commentators debated the tone. Some praised the sincerity. Others questioned the timing. Is this healing or performance? One pundit asked. But the polls told a clearer story. 67% of British respondents said the reunion improved their view of the monarchy. In the United States, that number climbed to 73%. This wasn't just a family moment, it had become a cultural reset. Historians drew comparisons to past royal reconciliations, Edward VIII and George VI, Charles and Anne, even Elizabeth and Margaret. But none had unfolded so publicly or so emotionally. One headline summed it up best: not a fairy tale ending, but the beginning the crown desperately needed. Because, in an age defined by transparency and trauma, two brothers speaking honestly meant more than any coronation speech ever could. But while the public swooned and the headlines glowed, inside the palace, the mood was far more complicated, because every word the brothers spoke carried consequences. And behind closed doors, damage control had already begun. Palace response inside. Buckingham Palace, there was no celebration. The unexpected reunion of Prince William and Prince Harry may have captivated the world, but behind the scenes, it had triggered a chain reaction. Aides scrambled into late-night meetings, redrafting statements, recalibrating press strategy, and racing to regain control of a narrative that had slipped from their hands in under 12 hours. By 8:15 p.m., a carefully worded statement was released. The royal household supports all efforts to strengthen family unity. Private moments remain private, short, clinical, emotionless. But that was deliberate. Any warmth might be seen as approval. Any distance could spark backlash. Meanwhile, Queen Camilla's office issued its own brief version. Her Majesty remains committed to continuity within the monarchy. The subtext was unmistakable. This was a family moment, not a constitutional one. Behind palace walls, insiders said King Charles was both relieved and anxious. He had reportedly watched portions of the reunion via a discreet live relay from Windsor. Those present described him as emotional, yet cautious. According to one senior courtier, Charles feared that too much transparency might weaken the institution. Yet privately, he expressed hope that his sons were finally speaking the same language again. The palace press office held urgent briefings with senior journalists, offering exclusive background context in exchange for gentler coverage. One quote was flagged and swiftly pulled from the official release. A line from William where he had said, the future doesn't belong to silence anymore. It was deemed too controversial, but it had already been heard, and it was already spreading, because even as the palace scrambled to contain the fallout, something far deeper had already shifted. Not just public sentiment, but the story of the monarchy itself. William's words were beginning to redefine what the future of the crown might look like. What William's words mean for the royal legacy. William hadn't appeared that day as merely the Duke of Cambridge. He arrived as a man preparing to be king, and the message he delivered, quiet, emotional, but unmistakable, was clear. The future of the monarchy would not look like its past. His line, "No more secrets," echoed across headlines. But it wasn't just a promise, it was a challenge to tradition, to silence, and to those still bound by it. Historians noted the shift immediately. After Queen Elizabeth II's death in 2022, the monarchy had leaned heavily on tradition and continuity. But now, William was signaling something different, a pivot toward empathy, openness, and shared grief. He wasn't dismantling the institution, he was humanizing it, and in doing so, he positioned himself not just as heir to the throne, but as heir to Diana's mission. Harry's role, too, took on new meaning. Once dismissed as the rogue prince, he was suddenly being recast, intentionally or not, as the keeper of Diana's flame. Through their reunion, he became something the public hadn't seen him as in years, a partner to William, not a rival. There were no grand declarations, no dramatic gestures, but the symbolism was undeniable. One cause, and one spirit, a mother, who still lit their way. Royal analysts quickly changed their tone. The feud was no longer the headline, the healing was. And in a monarchy desperate for relevance among younger generations, that shift was gold. For the first time since Harry and Meghan's exit in 2020, the royal family wasn't shrinking, it was expanding in emotional depth, in humanity, and in possibility. But none of it could have happened without the woman at the center of it all. Eva 28. Years after her death, Diana's presence wasn't fading. It was rising. In the days that followed, she became more than a memory. She became a movement. Ongoing ties to Diana's influence in the weeks after the reunion. Both brothers were seen separately attending events linked to Princess Diana's legacy. On October 5, 2025, William visited Centrepoint, one of Diana's favorite charities supporting homeless youth. Echoing her 1991 visit almost exactly 34 years earlier, he laid a bouquet of white roses, her favorite flower, on the doorstep and told a volunteer. She never walked past pain. She always stopped across the ocean. Harry launched a new partnership between the Arkwell Foundation and a mental health charity that Diana had once supported anonymously. Speaking at the event in Los Angeles, he said, "She's still working through us, through every person she touched." The words spread quickly. Many noted how closely they echoed Diana's own 1995 BBC interview, where she said, "I want to be a queen of people's hearts." Public engagement with Diana-focused social media accounts surged by 200%, and charities associated with her name reported a threefold increase in donations. Documentaries were re-aired, editorials praised her vision, and at Kensington Palace, her statue, unveiled in 2021, once again became a gathering place. Tourists left handwritten notes that read, "You brought them back together. She would be proud." Now, rumors suggest plans for a joint memorial event in 2027, marking 30 years since Diana's passing. For the first time, insiders say both brothers are expected to attend together. Diana's presence, once used as a point of division, is now becoming the bridge that might hold the monarchy together, not only for her sons, but for a world that never stopped watching. But nothing about this story is neat. Pain doesn't vanish with speeches. Grief doesn't follow a schedule. And even as the world celebrated their reunion, both brothers knew healing is not a moment, it's a process. Cliffhanger and new beginning. As the chapel service ended, there was no royal decree, no press statement, just a pause, a quiet moment between two men who had once walked behind the same casket and now stood on the edge of something new in 2025. Cameras were banned, but a royal photographer captured one final image, William turning back as Harry reached for the door. No handshake, no scripted farewell, just a small gesture, a nod from William. Then, a glance upward, toward the same chapel ceiling Diana once prayed beneath. A moment passed. Then, a faint smile. Harry stepped forward. They didn't embrace, but they walked side by side down the final aisle. To the world, it would look like closure, but to them, it was simply a beginning. Outside, the crowd didn't cheer. They watched. Stunned by the simplicity, William was overheard whispering to an aide, "Let's not lose this again." And when asked later how he felt, He reportedly said just 5 words: "We speak for her now." The story isn't over, not by a long shot. There are still wounds, still doubts, still a press ready to pounce. But what happened inside that chapel wasn't meant for headlines. It was for her. And maybe, just maybe, that's where everything begins again. On October 1st, 2025, after nearly 4 years apart, Prince William and Prince Harry met inside a secluded chapel on the Sandringham estate. No cameras, no press, just silence and the weight of everything left unsaid. Tensions ran high, but it was William who broke the ice with one unexpected tribute. He spoke not about fallout or scandal, but about Princess Diana, their mother, their guide, their shared grief. That love is the only legacy worth leaving. The words changed the air in the room. He confessed the pressure he'd felt carrying her, public image, and the guilt of staying silent. Harry, visibly moved, responded with honesty. He thanked William for bringing Diana into the room. Their pain remained, but something else emerged. Vulnerability, understanding, a crack in the wall between them. The reunion wasn't perfect. There was no grand finale, but for the first time, the brothers found common ground in her memory. Diana didn't just bring them into this world. Even in death, she may be the only one who can bring them back together. And in that chapel, on that quiet October morning, her voice was heard again.